Whom is biracial? The term bi means two, racial meaning race. Biracial people are a product of two parents of different races. We are specifically going to be focusing on biracial people with a black parent for obvious reasons. It's also important to know that biracial people are not the same as mixed race people. Let me rephrase that. It's also important to note that biracial people are not the same as multiracial people. Multi meaning more than two. An example of a multiracial person would be a black mom who marries a Chinese Jordanian person. That would be a multiracial person. Now, before I get into my reasoning, I do want to say this. I am very aware that biracialness exists on a spectrum, like much of everything in life. And I also know that there is a poster child for biracialness. And regardless if you look like that poster child or not, I'm still talking about biracial people. So regardless if you're darker skinned biracial or lighter skinned biracial, if you biracial, this is for you. I'm talking about you. Now, it's also important to mention that the gaslighting comments of, oh my God, everybody's mixed down the line. Exactly, down the line. I'm talking about direct lineage. Your mother, your father, and maybe your grandparents. Because I'm not here for the gaslighting. And the gag is, who is everybody? Because certain people, they're like 98% African. I've seen it. Okay. Now, let's get into the reasonings why I do not believe biracial people are black. Number one, their DNA. Their DNA is literally not the same as a black person. They have a whole nother parent of another race. Number two is the most famous rebuttal, hypodescence, aka the one drop rule. Now, little do you know, the one drop rule was created to gentrify blackness. Okay? And it is no longer valid because nobody is walking around with a cotton swab talking about, ooh, let me see your DNA right quick. Ooh, you're 3% black. You're 25% black. You got to be treated this way. No, nobody's doing that. Therefore, it is invalid. Leave it at the door. Thirdly, which is another famous rebuttal for this, white people, they look at biracial people as black. They look at biracial people as black. No, wrong again. White people have never seen biracial people as black. They've always known the difference. And here are several examples. Global example. I'm not just going to stay in the United States. We're going to go around the world with these. Okay? The very first one, let's start in the U.S. House slaves versus field slaves. They know the difference, y'all. And remember, a lot of house slaves were a product of enslaved Africans and a white slave owner. Let's go to South Africa. And even in the United States, they did this too. Colored people versus black people. During apartheid, colored people, the Afrikaans, which are white Africans, they made that differentiation between colored and black. A colored person was a biracial child of a black parent and a white parent. Okay? And I am not diluting that colored people were oppressed during apartheid. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that white people knew the difference. They literally give them a whole nother name. Now, let's travel back to the Western Hemisphere. Let's go to the West Indies. Let's go to my home country, Haiti. In Haiti, there was a class of people called les affranchis. Affranchi means that you were made free. And it also, the affranchis were a mixed race people. They were biracial, from an enslaved African and a white slave owner. Okay, the French made that difference. The Afflechies are basically the ones that also moved to Louisiana to become the Louisiana Creoles. Okay, so literally these are all reasons from different places in the globe, from different ethnicity of white people, always knowing the difference between biracialness and blackness. So you really need to stop holding on to that rebuttal, because they never did. They never seen us as black. I mean, they never seen them as black. Now I get into the miscellaneous thoughts. The first one is this: you have to understand that mixed race people have different privileges than black people. One example of this is in the entertainment industry. They have more of a plethora of roles that they can play and get hired for than black people do. Okay? Another thought is this: someone calling you biracial, they're not trying to say that you're not oppressed. They're not trying to say that you don't face oppression. Us saying that you're biracial, it doesn't mean that we're saying that you've never experienced oppression or you don't experience oppression. That is not what we're saying, because you're othered. Okay? If you're not white in this country, at this point, you're othered. So, of course, biracial people face oppression. But just know, in the minority boat, there's levels to this. Okay? Because there is such a thing as a model minority. Like I said, had you paid attention in class, had you looked it up, you would know. You would know. And another thing too, I was doing my research on the stereotypes that people have for biracial people, and the main stereotype that people have for biracial people is that they are attractive misfits. Which, if biracial people was black, they wouldn't get that stereotype, because black people don't have the stereotype of a hot misfit. You see how it's not a hot delinquent? It's a misfit. It's still not a positive thing, but it's not the same stereotype as black people at all. Black people are the only people who give biracial people black. If you look at the Asian community, they don't call Blasians Asian. Mexican mixed with black people, they don't call them Mexicans. Okay? And I don't want to play into the rift in the black diaspora, but it does happen more in this country, because my other black friends who are not from the United States, even from me back home, we don't look at biracial people as black. We look at them as biracial, and that's totally fine. It's not a bad thing. And because they're biracial, it doesn't mean we're like, oh, you can't partake in black things. That is not what we're saying. You can partake in, you can know your black side, because biracial people, I'm sure you've experienced this, the black community is very welcoming to biracial people. I'm not saying you can't, look at your ancestry, wear braids, none of that. I'm not saying that. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, as a biracial people, you're just not black, and that's okay. Biracial people, I'm not the one to, I just want y'all to know that people are not telling you how to identify. I'm not forcing you to do anything. We're just trying to educate y'all that y'all are not black, and that's okay. Because even when I peep, a lot of biracial people that I know, they don't call themselves black. So I don't understand why we giving them that too. Like, I just don't get it. We're holding on. Like, they're not holding on to it. They're vibing right now. And of course, I'm not going to say all biracial people don't consider themselves black. But most of the ones that I know and come across, they consider themselves mixed. And that's totally okay. Okay? That's totally okay. Another thing too is, I think as a call to action, black people need to be more proud of themselves. For some reason, every other ethnicity and race, they can say things like, we want to preserve our race. But once black people say that, it's, wow, World War Z. Like, dang, y'all. It's okay to want to preserve your race. That is a human instinct. Okay, so black people, be proud of yourself. It's really okay. Biracial people have been in existence for quite some times now. Even with Hispanic people, they're of mixed heritage. They're literally biracial and multiracial people. Of course, you got the Afros and you got the white Hispanics and stuff. But just remember that. And last but not least, for my call to action, every time you're getting ready to say biracial people are black, think about this example really quickly, okay? If you have purple Play-Doh and you have pink Play-Doh, right? You mix them together, you literally have a completely different color. You have a completely different admixture. You can't really say that this is 100% purple or 100% pink, okay? Yes, there might be more pink than purple. There might be more purple than pink. But at the end of the day, it's a whole different admixture. And it's also equally as beautiful like everybody else, okay? So just remember these calls to action. And to wrap it up, I saw this comment on the Shade Room, and I think this really encapsulate what I was trying to convey in this video. This is what the comment said. Biracial isn't a bad word. Mixed race people are not black. There are genetics and biological differences between black people and biracial people. That's not intended to be a negative statement. ... This is just a true statement. White supremacy came up with the one-drop rule so black folks can stand by ignorantly while they white out and dilute our race. We're the only nation of people that not only willingly white out our race, but happily. Y'all think it's a good thing, shaking my head. Read a book, because who my people are ignorant and suffers from lack of knowledge. Yup, that's exactly what that's what I was trying to encapsulate, okay? Whew. My mouth hurt. That was a lot to say. I really think that statement really encapsulated what I was trying to say perfectly.